parts of Asia because of possible al-Qaeda-related threats to diplomatic posts worldwide. That's what American officials are telling NBC News. And the U.S. has been appraised of information that, out of an abundance of caution and care for our employees and others who might be visiting the installations, indicates that they should institute these precautionary steps. That means they're shutting down the embassies for the immediate future anyway. United States Congressman Bill Huizenga, the Republican from West Michigan, on the other end of our AT&T line. Thank you for being available this morning.
Hey, MPS, good being with you.
You know anything about this?
Well, I mean, just what we've been seeing on the news, and obviously it just demonstrates and underscores how dangerous of a world we live in. And I'm going to be meeting with someone who is residing. He's from the U.S. here, but he resides in the Middle East a little later today. Happened to have that scheduled, and it's going to be one of our discussion points, just trying to find out really what is the mood over there. But obviously, we're at war yet, and we can't forget that.
Is it the kind of thing, when you're in Congress and you're in the Michigan delegation, you could call over to, say, Mike Rogers' office, since he's chair of Intelligence Committee, and say, what do I need to know about this? Does that sort of collegial back and forth happen?
Yeah, it does happen. And obviously we have to be careful where we have some of the discussions, whether things are classified or not. But just being able to have a relationship like that, to touch base and say, hey, what do we need to know about this? And it is extremely helpful.
There's no, Washington, D.C. cone of silence you two can stand under. You remember Maxwell Smart? Maybe you're too young.
Yeah, no. It is called the Intel Room, though.
Okay.
So we, in all seriousness, we do go in there for briefings on a fairly regular basis, and it's all your cell phones are taken away, all that stuff. You can't take notes. You just go in and ask questions and try and get a better idea of what's happening around the world.
Better idea of what's happening with the Affordable Care Act is sort of back in the news again. Dave Camp, the congressman from Michigan, he's got growing concerns about the implementation of key parts of the measure. Here's what he said.
This law is becoming increasingly unfair, unworkable, and untenable for Americans. With just 3 months left, patients, doctors, and hardworking taxpayers will have more questions than answers.
Now he's chair of the Ways and Means Committee. Sandra Levin, the Michigan Democrat, says you Republicans are just obsessed with the health care law.
The Republican mission is clear. Don't implement, destroy.
Yeah, well, on the heels of all that now, we hear the jobs report is coming out today, and it's going to be down from the jobs created in June. And according to some of the economists, employers are being very careful to hire part-time workers instead of full-time workers because they don't want to have to, get over 50 and provide the health care, and they think the insurance costs are going to be higher with the implementation of the law. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, and there's so many question marks out there, and this is the same administration that just announced that they wanted to delay the employer mandate a year. Don't like the idea that we have, which that ought to apply to individuals as well. I can tell you this hit home when my nephew came home. He's in college, and he came home and said, well, they just made the announcement at the restaurant that nobody's going to be working over 29 hours. And that has whacked him. It's hit, families and single moms and a bunch of other people that are trying to do this. And you're absolutely right. The people that are our job creators are in the pause button right now because there's so much uncertainty. And, this I got to pass it to find out what's in it stuff has not worked. And yes, I am obsessed with trying to fix this. We should, because even Max Baucus, one of the authors, has said that this has been a train wreck in implementation.
Is Grand Haven in your district?
Yes.
Okay, Grand Haven, this is in the news this morning, too. They're bringing back 10 teachers who were laid off in June. Guess why? Because they pushed back the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, so they were allowed to, they were capable then of bringing them back in. Is that interesting?
That's stunning, and those are the kind of frustrating things that you see repeatedly, though, in different areas. I hadn't heard this one particularly in education, but we're going to be checking that one out. That uncertainty and the cost that this is going to be bringing on to employers, whether they're public sector like that with the schools or private sector, it's just going to collapse under its own weight, and my friends across the aisle just simply are blind to it, apparently.
Michael Lepp will email that story to your office so you can get a look at where we got it from
Perfect.
Metro Source News this
I
morning.
appreciate that. See, that's why I get on MPS in the morning, so I can get my news. This is great.
Well, that's why we like to have you for reaction.
Yeah.
It's a nice symbiotic relationship, isn't it?
That's right. That is good.
I see that John Conyers, the Democrat from Michigan, the congressman, was the only one to vote against the deal that will roll back the interest rate on the student loans. I wonder why he voted against it.
I have no idea. I've quit trying to figure out some of my colleagues' motivations, but this makes sense. It was something that the administration and the Senate didn't want to do, but the House went out on a limb, created a solution rather than creating a problem, which was happening with these interest rates skyrocketing for kids that are starting school this fall. And the Senate, in its wisdom, saw that we were on the right path. They did a few little minor changes. It came back to us. We agreed, and then the president's going to be signing it. So, this is good for families and good for students.
What is the PATH Act?
That PATH Act, this came out of the Financial Services Committee. It's the dealing with our mortgage situation. The Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who are in charge of sort of packaging all of the mortgages that are out there, desperately need to be reformed. And what's been happening is this boom and bust cycle that has been happening in housing over decades, really, and it's one of the things that brought this last financial crisis, certainly the housing part of that financial crisis. So this is a bill, a proposed solution that will phase out the broken system of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. It'll go back in if anybody has gone in as a first-time home buyer or a low-income home buyer. They may have used the FHA loan. FHA, back when I was selling real estate, I sold real estate when I had gotten out of school and was before I got into the political world. I did real estate sales full time. FHA accounted for somewhere around 10, maybe 15% of all the deals. Right now, they're in the 80 to 90% of all home purchases are FHA, and we need to get back to its central core. And then the other thing it does is it helps try to pull in private capital into the system, which we desperately need as well. So 30-year mortgages are going to exist. We think that there's going to be flexibility for people when they're going in and getting their mortgages, and it's a good thing.
Okay, stay in close touch. Good to hear your voice today.
You got it. All right, take care, MPS.
Congressman Bill Huizenga from